Thanks for logging on to Wayne.com for another edition of Inside the Zone. Glenn Marini here, alongside.
Back off probation.
Alongside, I only do it when Hall of Famers are here. Congratulations. Tell us a little bit about your Sunday, because I know it was a big honor for you. We talked about it.
It was incredible. It was crazy. So many great people. It was like a who's who of Indiana sports journalism down there, because they invited all the previous Hall of Fame inductees back too. And that was just incredible. And it got God love him, Bob Chase introduced me, and he was wonderful and told lies, and we had a ball. It was so much fun.
Lies are the best way to go.
It is, yeah, because I'll get him back.
Yeah, heaping on the praise.
Yeah.
But
he really disparaged my drinking ability. I mean, it was awful.
Well, there are some truths mixed in there.
I know. Yeah.
But no, definitely congratulations to you. I know it meant a lot.
It was incredible.
Well earned and well deserved. So now I must ask tougher questions.
Go for it.
Komets, Kalamazoo in the first round.
And boy, tougher will be the whole definition of that.
You and I were talking about it before the show. This is going to be a lot tougher in actuality than on paper.
Oh yeah, it was, even though the season series was 8-7, I mean, it'll be that tight the whole way through the series. I just believe it. I mean, Joel Martin's a great goaltender. He almost beat the Komets single-handedly once in the playoffs, and he's even better now than he was then. This is going to be great because these two teams know each other so well. It's like, why even do scouting reports? Because you're just going to give them too much to think about almost.
I'm glad that you started with the goalies, because that was the first thing I wanted to ask about. The Komets go up to Kalamazoo and you beat 6-0 on Friday.
Yep.
How reflective of that will this series be? What does it mean? And also, where are you going at goaltending-wise? Because that was Pat Neglin that game.
I know.
I was listening to it on TV. The color was atrocious. But even through all that, I would not have said Pat Neglin played his best game.
No, he didn't, but they were awful in front of him.
Well, and Roman Will played pretty well on Saturday.
The thing of it is, this is what's fascinating about it. Pat's 4-2 against Kalamazoo. Roman's 1-4. Oh, really? Yeah, so throw that in there, and it's like, oh, crap, now what do you do? And Gary's not talking. Gary's not saying.
Tight-lipped.
Oh, yeah, which I don't blame him. I wouldn't either. I mean, they got to prepare for both of them. And you would think, oh, there's got to be Roman. It has to be. He's played so well of late and everything. But then you look at, he's 1-4, and he's a rookie, and Pat's won a cup before with Florida, and he was 4-2 against them. I mean, this is a critical decision right here.
And you think about that, how weird of a decision that is to make, how Roman has played well enough to make it a decision.
Oh,
because
yeah.
2 months ago, before he spent all that time up in the AHL, we would have said Pat Neglin is the MVP of this Komets team, and Sidlowski would be second.
I mean, Pat's, what, 4th or 5th in the league right now in the goaltender rankings, and Roman's worked himself up to, I think, 8th or 7th. It's incredible how far Roman's come. And I don't know what you do. You're blessed to have both those options.
Well, one of the options they're not going to have, which is certainly unfortunate if you're a Komets fan, Joey Leach.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about the wrist, because it was kind of a fluke injury what happened to him.
Joey had surgery today, and I haven't heard any results of the surgery. They're not going to talk about what specifically he got hurt or whatever, but all they're saying is that his recovery time should be done by late June, early July, and he'll be able to play next year if he chooses, which is really great because, man, when you're messing around with those kind of injuries, you just don't know. I mean, I was shocked that he came home Friday night. I thought they'd leave him in the hospital up there and then go get him and bring him home. But no, he rode the bus home and got checked out by the Fort Wayne doctors on Saturday, and they had surgery today.
So no Joey Leach for the postseason.
Which is huge because he's your lockdown defenseman.
That was my next question. How does that affect the defensemen that they're going to be keeping on this playoff roster, and how they do the defensive pairings, because he was such a big part of what you do when he came back?
Well, and he's the guy you send out against him and Drew Daniels. You send them out against whoever's first line, period. And Joey's just such a great guy at taking out somebody and leaving him. You just don't have to worry about that guy then. And Kalamazoo has a few of those guys right now with Dane Fox, Ludwig Blomstrand. I mean, he's been fantastic of late. So that's tough. So now they went with Michael Tam and put him with Drew Daniels, and that was that's going to be a good pairing, a real good pairing. But it kind of messes everything else up because you've got Ian Bartow playing with James Martin, and then you've got Cody Soul and Will Koss. So you could still make some moves there, and I think they're going to go out and try to sign a rookie out of the college or juniors, or their all seasons are done now, and try to bring in somebody that way too. So it's hard right now.
What intrigues me about the way that they are going to have to move some defensemen around is they released Matt Krug on Friday, which if you think about it, there's not a lot of fight. You did an article. Was it an article about it?
No, I just mentioned. I went some research.
There's not a lot of fighting in the playoffs.
There's like 4 fights or 5 fights in the last
you don't want to give
12
up
years.
the bodies.
I mean, there just aren't. And Matt can do more than just fight. And I'm never going to say he can't. Matt is a great passer. I mean, the problem for Matt is his feet. His footwork is just, and that's critical in the playoffs. And I don't know how. That's a tough decision to make. That's awful. Plus, they had 5 vets. They got to get down to 4. And if you want to start a checking line, you would think Aaron Clark would be a natural on the checking line. So it's just brutal decision. That's hard to make.
Drew Daniels. It came out today. Well, I mean, if you can read numbers, then you knew it was going to happen. But plus 46 on the season, that ties for the ECHL lead. What has he met? Because I feel like he's a guy that has played consistently well all season long, and we don't talk about him scoring. We don't talk about him being flashy, but he's been there playing well night in and night out.
And he had a career year. I mean, and we're not talking just a couple points better. We're talking 10, 15 points better. When Marty got called up or Marty got hurt, is like Drew really picked up his offense. And he was playing with Sidlowski, Embach, and Fye, and those guys will give him all the credit in the world for getting the puck out to him quickly so then they could do something. And like we said, Drew's always the guy out there against the other team's top line too. So he's very, very good defensively. And you could see him grow as the season went along as well, carrying the puck more and trying to do more things offensively because he knew they needed him to.
I want to get back to the 6-0 defeat in Kalamazoo on Friday because I don't know how much that plays into the rest of this series, but how do you approach that? Because obviously, I mean, you would have liked to win, but 6-0.
Yeah.
It was pretty,
and
you saw it.
It was
worse. Definitive.
It could have been
Fox
worse.
had 3 goals. I mean, it was nasty.
And Fox was untouched on all of them. I mean, it just looked like the Komets just weren't interested in playing. But the last month, it looks like there was lack of an interest because they knew they couldn't catch Toledo. It's like I wrote today. You just got to flush the regular season, and it's true. I mean, I would say that even if they won 10 in a row. Because the regular season and the playoffs are so distinctly unique from each other in the ECHL because you've got so many guys getting sent down. You know, the Komets might get 3-4 guys, new guys this week. You don't know yet. And the AHL season still goes a week too, or they could get them in 2 weeks. And that makes, I mean, that's what Cincinnati did last year. They had 13 guys who played in the American Hockey League. By the end of the season, they got 5 guys or whatever right before they played the Komets last year.
If you're Gary Graham and the Komets, you've got a week before Friday. You've got a week before the series opener. So what are you working on? I mean, is it trying not to overthink?
Oh, I would think so.
I know Gary's great at scouting and breaking down things, but is this kind of a series where you're like, eh?
You know, it's almost like you don't, because you played them so much, you don't worry about what they do. You just worry about what you have to do. Seriously. And you almost can't. If you try to get too far in guys' heads, they know it. They know it instinctually what they got to do because they played them so much. It's like going against the JV team in practice. You know what that kid can do and where he's supposed to be, you know, when the plays and such. So now you've got to really maybe fine tune what matchups you want. Who do you want the money line going against? Who do you want your best defensive pairings going against? That kind of thing. And then you might point out like 3 things or 4 things at the very most, not a ton. Because if you get them overthinking, they're going to think instead of react. And they can't do that against Kalamazoo because they know each other so well. Right. It's like I wrote for something this week. It's like, you know, Kaylee Schrock could tell the opposing forward, okay, for Kalamazoo, you're supposed to be over here now. I mean, they know each other so well.
If there's one thing that you would say is a key to this series or maybe this series hinges on, what would it be?
They're going to beat the crap out of each other. They have to be so physical, both sides, especially the Komets, because everybody knows you can bang the Komets. And if the Komets are playing hard and banging, that's when their skill level picks up because they're invested and they're into it and they're moving fast and they're just reacting. They're not thinking. When they slow the game down, that's where they're in trouble. It's going to be the Komets' speed and hitting. They're going to have to hit against Kalamazoo's hitting because Kalamazoo can really only play one way. They've gotten a lot better with the skill level in the last few weeks, they got some better players, but they're still playing the same way. They've got to play. They can only play the one way.
How concerned are you about the fact that it's Martin in the other net?
Oh, I think he's great.
Because we have seen him in the playoffs before. We've seen him in the postseason. We've seen him in the regular season. He plays pretty darn well against these Komets. He's fired up about it.
I remember in 2009 when he had a 51-save shutout performance against him, and Gary was the assistant coach, and he put together a highlight video of all the goals against him that the Komets had scored, just to give the guys a little confidence. And then they only needed 52 shots to beat him in overtime. You know, he's that good. When he's on, and he's better than ever this year, he's great, and they know that.
There are a lot of good goaltending performances this year. Lurg, every year. Jakite is down in Cincinnati. You've got Mador. I mean, there have been some really good goaltending performances in the ECHL this year. Luckily, Cincinnati didn't make the playoffs because that's a tougher, again, that's a tougher out than some might think.
Oh, yeah. Well, they're used to going deep in the playoffs, too. They know how to do it. And that's the thing with Martin is, yeah, his numbers don't match up with those guys, but who meant more to their team than he did? I mean, he carried them for months when they had nothing because of all the call-ups.
Yeah, they didn't have a whole lot going on early except him.
And he kept them in it. He kept them going. I mean, it's amazing.
Final question, your prediction for this series, how many games, who wins?
I think it's going 7. I really do. I think it'll be Komets in 7, and it wouldn't shock me if Game 7 went to overtime just because these teams know each other so well and hate each other so much. I think there's going to be injuries. There's going to be controversy. I think it's going to be spectacular.
All right. Looking forward to this series?
I'm looking forward to playoffs, period.
All right. Friday night is when it picks up. Komets at home against Kalamazoo in Game 1. Of course, we'll be talking about it on Monday here on Inside the Zone. For Hall of Famer Blake Sebring, I'm Glenn Marini, and we'll see you next week.